in the summer of last year, during the West Indies cricket tour of England, I called for Kraigg Brathwaite to either fired or he stepped down as captain of the West Indies cricket team. I ran a live poll then, and the majority of you agree with my opinion that he should no longer captain the West Indies cricket team. Some, however, though, as in any democracy, disagree with that opinion. And I have no issues with those who disagree. After all, I'm from Jamaica, where there's press freedom and persons are entitled to their opinion. However, there are a few who ask the question, if not Kraigg Brathwaite, who? There are some who even went as far as to say Kraigg Brathwaite was the only person to lead the West Indies team. I was at pain to point out that it was disrespectful to the other members of the team to think that Kraigg Brathwaite was the only one who could lead the team. And as if Cricket West Indies agreeing with me, they have selected 6 persons to interview to take over from Kraigg Brathwaite. I never knew that there were 6 persons in this West Indies setup that were such capable and good leaders. Sight of Cricket West Indies, though, they are, and they are many. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 cricket channel in the Caribbean. I thank you for being here and look forward to your live interaction. This is The Takedown. Good morning and welcome to Dwight and Basil Butcher Jr.
Good morning, Carlton. Good morning, Dwight. Good morning to all your viewers. And I am glad to be here again.
Morning, Carlton. Morning, Basil. Nice being right here with you guys. And morning to all your viewers on the Cricket Info. Go ahead, Carlton.
Well, I don't know where he gets the cricket info from. He's probably listening to something else, but this is the Cricket Forum. Good morning to you, Samuel. Welcome to the show. Now, gentlemen, you have all heard the news. And my first question to you this morning, and as usual, we go with Bobby first, Basil, because Basil is always on time. So I'll go with Basil first. So Basil, your interaction to the decision of Cricket West Indies to select 6 players to be interviewed for possible captain of the West Indies cricket team.
Look, I was very surprised when I heard the process that they're using, psychometrics and interviewing leadership thing, bringing in a consultant according to Andrew Mason, who broke the news, a consultant of Manchester United fame, and 2 former West Indies captains are part of the panel in which interviewing these players. I found that very interesting. I didn't realize this being the captain of the West Indies was an academic process. It's an elite sport position, right? And there should be other ways and methods in which you would choose a captain and not the method that they're using. But remember, Cricket West Indies has been on this mantra. Everything is data-driven. So I guess this is, again, part of that mantra of Cricket West Indies.
Thank you very much, Basil. Over to you, Dwight.
Now, let me say that I'm a data man, and I believe that a lot of decisions ought to be data-driven. But I think that you have to put context so that the data that you're looking for, you're looking through the proper data sets. You're looking in the right places. And I think that Darren Sammy, Miles Bascom has gotten this particular decision incorrect. I agree with the decision that we needed to move on from Kraigg Brathwaite. That was never in doubt. We've been saying that. But this thing of thinking that the new West Indies captain will be uncovered by doing some psychometric tests and having some interviews and putting some different scenarios to players, and the one who's giving the best answers, chances are the one that you're going to look to make the captain of the team. I think that is incorrectly placed because that is not where this team is at right now. Where this team is at right now is that they need to put a player in place who we are quite sure will be there in that team for the next 10 test matches and will be there to lead the team. They need to be looking to invest in a player and not to be looking to find a captain who is already ready-made. Because who are they interviewing? They're interviewing the Silva. He's struggling to make the team. He was just kicked out of the team. Imlach, the new boy coming in the team, maybe one test match, 2 test matches. Who else is there? Justin Greaves, Warrican. I mean, what's going on here? There is no context to this thing, and this is foolishness.
Thank you very much, Dwight. I want to go back to Basil, though. Basil, you mentioned that there's a psychologist from Manchester United who is acting as a consultant in this interview process. Why, though, would you go for someone from Manchester United when one of the problems that many persons have cited with the Manchester United setup over the 12 years is that they have been recruiting bad players with the wrong attitude, like the Paul Pogba, like the Cavani, and so on, like the Mkhitaryan? Those are the concern. With the club spending over $1 billion on player transfer in the past 12 years, and yet still, as we speak, they are 17th in the English Premier League. We all know who follow Manchester United, the poor quality of the players, and more importantly, the poor attitude. Why would you go for a consultant from such a organization?
Well, I do not follow football. The only time I watch football is when this is the World Cup. So you are giving me even more ammunition, regarding choosing someone of Manchester United fame. Maybe the people who are of making the choice are Manchester United fans, so that's where their sentiments lie. But more deeper than that, my question is, we don't have expertise or people with that kind of expertise in the region?
Good question.
Or because to me, this seems to me part of that neo-colonialist mindset of us in the Caribbean region, that we don't have the be able to do things by self in making decisions for us, right? That we got to go and bring a foreigner to help us make decisions for ourselves. I think that is ridiculous. We have a rich cricket legacy, and I think, unfortunately, for those people at CWI, they have not been able, or they don't have the skill set to access that cricket intelligence that resides in our region amongst our people.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Christopher Bristol. Good morning, Patrick Lambert, Merrick Meredith, Gerald Music. Good morning to you all. Dwight, being it as it may, Cricket West Indies decide to hire a consultant to select their next captain. I don't have an opinion on this either way. As the leader, you will always want to do things that you think that will be the best to help the situation. But if they are employing a consultant, shouldn't they be employing the best in class?
Well, on this consultant situation, to begin with, I am more concerned about this person's background. How much work have they done in the hiring of cricket captains? Because the two sports are like worlds apart in terms of the role of the captain and how you'd want that person to execute the role. So that's the first thing I'd be concerned about. Whether they're from Manchester United or Chelsea or Arsenal is not so much my concern, because what you'll find in those teams, or in teams in general in the English FA, most football teams in fact, is that while they'll get input from the consultant in terms of what the hire should be or what the the psychometric, what the psychological profile of the player is, a lot of the final decision making is going right back to the director of football, who is making a lot of these decision making based on player availability, the funds that they have in terms of player purchase, and other things. All right, so I don't want to be too harsh in knocking this particular person and weighing it against the success of Manchester United, because I don't know if what the person's work has been like. But I'm more concerned, does this person have a background in cricket and in high-end cricket captains? I think that's the more pertinent question.
Good morning, Athena. Dwight, I'm going to go on to all this psychometric thing in just a second. However, as someone looking on from the outside and looking at Manchester United players over the last 12 years, you can consult anyone that followed Manchester United. One of the biggest problems at that club is the attitude of the players. And if someone is coming out of Manchester United that recruited those bunch of players that are at Manchester United that took this great club from the pinnacle of world football to be scrambling at the bottom of the English Premier League, players who, when they come to the club, their attitude is just rotten. Why then would you want to employ someone who employed those players? However, let us look at, let us go here. So this is the 6 players have undergone interviews and psychometric testing as part of the selection process for Cricket West Indies to determine the next test captain following Kraigg Brathwaite's decision to step down. So, gentlemen, well, the other part said a second interview is expected before the final decisions. And just let me put up those 6 players' names. So those are the 6 players that have been interviewed and have gone under the psychometric testing. Gentlemen, why is it that we need to interview 6 players? Why these 6 players? Is there anybody else who you think should have been interviewed? My 2 persons that I have in mind are Alzari Joseph and Kemar Roach. I think one of those 2 should be the next West Indies captain. Now, gentlemen, please tell me, what are your thoughts on these 6 players, and who do you think should be the next West Indies captain? Start with you, Dwight.
My first impressions, and I'll go through name by name. I don't think Justin Greaves should even have been able to sit an interview. He is relatively new on the scene. If Jason Holder plays, he's not gonna play. So unless this is a sign that they're moving on from Jason Holder, I don't know how is it that Justin Greaves is even in this, because he has not featured prominently for the West Indies in any number of games. John Campbell, I can understand. Jomel Warrican is just somebody who's again finding his feet in the team. He was not around the team setup for quite some time. He has done well recently, but he's relatively just finding his feet in the team. Tevin Imlach is a new boy. Joshua De Silva was just dropped and is not assured of a game. And Roston Chase is an anomaly. I can't explain it. He, in my opinion, wasn't playing Test cricket anymore. He looked as if he had gone on to just feature in the white ball part of the game. So I don't understand this at all. Also, where is Mr. Seals? Where is Jaden Seals? I don't understand that. For me, the only player that we can say with certainty will be around the West Indies setup for the next 10 years is Mr. Seals, Mr. Jaden Seals, who has been performing absolutely well since they have joined the West Indies team setup. If you can look and give Justin Greaves a looking, and give Jomel Warrican a looking, why not Seals? We're not sure whether or not any of these players will be around. All of them, even John Campbell is just coming back into the side. All right. So how come we're considering these teams and we're not looking at the fact, will these players be around? And how is it that Warrican and Greaves getting a looking and not Justin Seals? Man, I'm irritated when I look at this list.
Dwight, it seems like Gerald Music is agreeing with you because he's saying that Seals to me is the only sure pick. He's young, his recent performance will motivate the team. To me, he is the leader of the bowling. He's basically saying to him, he's the leader of the bowling attack and he's his captain. So there is Gerald Music agreeing with you, Dwight.
Yeah, personally, I think that Sammy is being lazy. I'm being dead honest. Sammy's my boy. You know that, Sammy. I read the work that you have done with the white ball team, but you're being lazy here. What we need you to do is to invest and mold and develop a captain. Be bold like the way that South Africa was bold years ago when they looked and they invested in a new captain who hardly played any test cricket. We have Jaden. He has played all of 20 test matches or so. And you're looking, just hoping to get a ready-made captain and hoping that you can chance to find a player who will just get automatic selection who we don't really have to worry about. I look at stuff like looking at Tevin Imlach. I heard somebody saying, well, as the wicket keeper, even if he's not making any runs, he's sure of his game once he's keeping good wicket. That's not where we are in our cricket. I just think that this is just Sammy being lazy and refusing to do what's needed. No, this team needs us to invest in a captain. There's no ready-made captain out there for us right now.
Basil, let's hear from you.
My choice is on the list. Roston Chase is my choice for captain. My second choice is John Campbell. They're both on the list. I could go down. I could give you my chapter and verse as to why I would choose Roston Chase, right? Roston Chase, number one, is the most experienced guy in Test cricket, regardless of the fact he hasn't played Test cricket in a few years. He's the most experienced person on that list, so he has seen more about Test cricket than anybody on there. He has captained Barbados in the past. He has captained the white ball team in the past. Roston Chase reminds me. There's some similarities with Roston Chase and when Clive Lloyd was appointed captain of the West Indies team back in 1974. Clive Lloyd had very limited captaincy experience. He wasn't even the captain for Guyana. He had captained Guyana 4 times. What he was a very experienced guy because he had started his career in 1966. And that team in 1974 was a very young team. We had a lot of guys who were now coming in, like the Viv Richardses, the Gordon Greenidge, who hadn't played Test cricket as yet. You had Alvin Kalik-Charan, the Lawrence Rose, who were about 2 years into their career. Roberts had just started, so you had a lot of young guys, and Clive Lloyd was a very experienced guy to lead this new team that we were building. Similarly, today, we have a green team, green. If you remember the stats when we were in England, when they were talking about the amount of test matches played by the top 6 batsmen in the team, and Kraigg Brathwaite had 90-something of those, and the rest of them didn't even add up to 10. So it tells you the how green the team is. So I see Roston Chase as the best person for that. I like John Campbell because John Campbell, in my opinion, is the best tactician I've seen of the regional captains this season. He's very sound. He's a guy that doesn't wait for something to happen. He's very proactive. And also, he's a guy that leads from in front. He chooses to lead from in front. So those are some qualities I like about John Campbell. That's why he is my number 2. Right, I could make an argument for the Silva in terms of them investing in the Silva as a future captain. He was vice captain. He was captain of the A team, etc. So they have invested in this guy to be captain. So I could see why his name is on the list. But the others, I don't understand what the other 3 are doing on the list. I mean, all due respect to Imlach, yes, he has led Guyana and so on, but he's 2 test matches into his career, and I feel he needs to solidify his place in the team. And then I would want to add now, Chateau and others often like to call up when he's referring to SEALs or whomever, Graham Smith. I'd always like to remind people the South Africa team was a veteran-laden team, right? Smith was not coming in to lead a bunch of people green like himself. That was a team filled with veterans who helped Graham Smith to become the captain he became. He had a lot of shoulders to lean on. You imagine Callis and those guys were in the team with Smith. Boucher was in the team with Smith. Gary Kirsten was in the team with Smith. I got to remind you guys of these things. There are a lot of veterans was in that South Africa team. This was not no Greenback West Indies team. So that analogy that many like to bring, compare Smith. We tried the experiment with Jason Holder. What was the result? A disaster.
Dwight, I clearly saw that you really wanted Basil, and really and truly, I don't know why you didn't, because clearly the screen was between both of you. So let's hear what you have to say there, Dwight.
Basil, you're here pushing for Roston Chase. And I don't know if that's pick another Barbadian because I was sticking with Kraigg Brathwaite and that blew up in my face. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if you were behind Kraigg Brathwaite when we were telling you this guy's done. And it ended up blowing up in your face. So you're now picking another Barbadian. I hear you throwing in the roach a third Barbadian. I don't know if it's that. But my simple question to you is this, Basil. Basil, why hasn't Roston Chase been able to make this testing? Remember, he was dropped for form.
Let me just make a point to you. I will say this with all due respect to the selectors. That was a bad selection. I think some of y'all forget when we were last in Australia, when we got shellacked. You know who was one of the people that made a half century? Playing as a spinner. Because remember, he got picked in the team. He was batting till at number 7 or 8. Roston Chase made a 50 in Australia. Right? Roston Chase went to Zimbabwe and then to South Africa. That was the last time he played Test cricket. He made a 50 in Zimbabwe. And he made a couple scores, 20-something scores in South Africa. We were beaten in South Africa. So you're dropping Roston Chase to bring in whom? Right? In my view, Roston Chase should have been in the team that went to Pakistan most recently. Could you imagine Roston Chase's off-spin bowling on a track so helpful?
But in all honesty, the bowlers that went to Pakistan did bowl well.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not denying that.
So I don't see the need for Roston Chase in Pakistan. But we are really sidetracking here, though, Basil. Dwight, I see you want to come in here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's hear what Jomel Small think that if West Indies is having to select from 6 candidates, might as well give him the captaincy. While Patrick Lambert agree with me that Alzarri Joseph should be the captain. Also, Caris agreed with me that Kemar Roach should be the captain. I remember I said that one of those would be my 2 choices. No, let's go. Go ahead, Dwight.
No. Everybody heard me. I called for Andre Alzarri Joseph some time ago. I definitely see worth in SEALs because of his consistency, and Alzarri has sort of fallen off in terms of consistency. And I've told everybody that they're giving this thing to John Campbell. I said this before the names were released, that John Campbell is the captain that they're going to give it to. And I don't have a problem with John per se. I'm just concerned that he's new in the side and how will that work out. But I think that Jaden Seals is the person that they should be. My big problem, and everybody's running away from this, why are we looking at inconsistent fringe players and handing them the captaincy? We're going to run into the same thing that we ran into with Brathwaite, a player who is underperforming, and he's getting a free selection into the team. So that's the big thing I'm curious about. Why are we looking at some guys who are fringe players, who are not established in the team, who do not have a record of performance, and sticking them in an elite team where performance is the big thing? Explain that to me.
Okay, I will point this out.
Just a minute, Basil, because Sanko Sancho is agreeing with what Basil is saying, and he's saying that he disagrees with you, Basil, and he's asking you to name one player who has solidified their places in the team as a batsman.
Well, good. I'm glad you asked that question because that's exactly what I was getting to. Chato also regarding Clive Lloyd. Clive Lloyd averaged less than 25 in the series the series after which he was appointed captain. He averaged less than 25, right? And look what he turned out to be, right? So let us be careful. Now to what the question was asked.
So you think any of these guys were batting as well as Clive Lloyd?
Huh?
You think any of these guys were batting as well as Clive Lloyd was batting prior to him coming into the team as captain? You think any of these guys had Clive Lloyd quality?
Average 24.5 against England in 1974, and then
No, Basil, you should finish. I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm asking you a simple question as well. Apart from the whole thing about if any of these guys have the permanent.
Here, hold on. Let me just tell you this too. Let me just give you all the stats. Clive Lloyd was averaging 38 as a test batsman, right? When he got captaincy. He had 5 test hundreds and 12 half centuries. Roston Chase is averaging 26 as a test batsman. He has 5 test hundreds and 11 half centuries. The West Indies team got an entire bunch of 20-something test batsmen, right? So Roston Chase is not out of the company, right? So I don't see why people would be against Roston Chase to be captain. I think Roston Chase ticks all the boxes in my view.
He's mediocre. He's a mediocre player.
The West Indies team is laden with mediocre players.
Yeah, then let's select among the few good players that we have.
And here, your rationale for Seals is the most ridiculous rationale because
which is what?
Why? I'm gonna explain to you why. Just because he's a consistent fast bowler, that translates to being captain. That is ridiculous.
No. I said that we needed to invest in him, but it makes more sense to invest in someone who's a consistently high quality player than to invest in a mediocre player. That makes no sense. Basil. In around 10 test matches, we'll be calling for this new captain to be dropped if he's mediocre and can't translate. In less than 10 test matches in, we'll be calling for him to be dropped. That doesn't make any sense.
Let me ask you a question, Basil. At what rate?
Numbers, since you're a C-far man, that you know what can happen in 10 test matches.
But Basil,
I said if he doesn't play well, if he's mediocre, if Chase continues to be mediocre, less than 5 test matches in, we all will be saying he should be dropped. If Chase does what he has done, yeah, if he continues to do what he has done, we all will be saying drop Chase in less than 5 test matches in. That makes no sense.
We have not lost any test matches because of captaincy.
Basil, will you not call for the dropping of Roston Chase if he performs as he did before he was dropped?
No, not like that. No.
Basil,
if he continues to be... Let me done. Go ahead, Carter.
How effective a bowler was Clive Lloyd when he was selected to be captain?
Clive Lloyd was hardly ever bowled. He bowled every now and then.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen. I want to go on to this next phase here. So here's it now. Because a number of persons are asking, what is this psychometric testing is all about? And so I've decided to, give you a better understanding of what psychometric testing is about. So it's in sport, especially in high stakes roles like a cricket team captain, psychometric is used to assess traits such as leadership ability, decision making under pressure, emotional intelligence, teamwork and communication skills, personality trait, and temperament. These tests help selectors understand how a player might handle responsibility, manage stress, and lead others, not just based on stats or skill, but on psychological fitness, gentlemen. So, gentlemen, despite the numbers, Cricket West Indies is saying that we are not only looking at your performance, but we are looking at your psychological ability to lead this team. Gentlemen, tell me what you think about this psychometric thing.
I would tell you this. That should be part of your, when you're scouting players and you're assessing players, this should be part of it, period. Australia call it character. One of the things that when you're scouting through, they put all of this under the umbrella of character of the player. So you have this along with this the skill set as you evaluate a player. There should not be something about just choosing a test captain. This should be part of our evaluation and scouting of all our cricketers, full stop.
Okay. Dwight, your reaction to this psychometric testing for captains?
I don't have a problem with the psychometric testing. As to what weight we should give to it in the big picture, I don't think that should be the controlling thing that determines how you're going forward. Secondly, I agree with Basil. I think at the very least, your senior leadership should have players that you would have done this before. You should have in putting together the structure of your team. You want to think beyond just the captain. You want to have a group of senior players, and a lot of these senior players should have been put through this so that if we fall into the situation that we are in now, we're not just looking at the bottom of the barrel and we're not looking to start from scratch, but we have other players who would have exhibited this. But as I said, this psychometric testing thing in elite sport, in a sport where you cannot carry stragglers, I don't think this should be the this should carry the greatest weight in the selection of players.
Yeah, can I add something quickly to that? Yeah, add on to that. As I said earlier, the thing about this should be part of your selection of players, period, to the team. Because what do we see often, Carlton, in our players? They fold under pressure. Every time our players see stressful situations, for the most part, we're unable to perform consistently. So maybe had we had some of this testing done on all our players, we would have had a better holistic picture of this player's ability to perform at the highest level in the sport.
Well, maybe that's a part of the plan from Myers Bascom. He did tell us that they will have a different approach to the selection of players in the team. He did say that they will look at the character of their innings. They'll look at other things regarding how they presented themselves in games and not simply look at raw scores. So maybe this will also be a part of how Cricket West Indies look going forward in selecting players.
Hope so.
Okay, so gentlemen, let us now give our audience an idea of some of the questions that they will ask in psychometric. What I try to do here is to ask close-ended question instead of open-ended question that are more subjective. Because one of the things that I used to do as a teacher, when you're setting questions, when you're setting a paper, it is easy to ask open-ended questions and those answers will be subjective, but it takes a longer time to mark. But when you go through and ask objective questions where only one answer is the right answer, anybody can help you mark it. Yes. So I usually just prefer to take my time at the back end and ask questions and set a paper that is easier to mark. So that's what I did here. So I'm asking some of the questions now and you, the audience, please participate and let us see your opinions in the live chat or what your answer will do. So I'm going to go with Basil for the first one, Dwight for the second, Basil for the third, and Dwight for the fourth. 4 questions. And I'm trying to cover, in these 4 questions, I'm trying to cover those 5 pillars of psychometric. So this is the first one, gentlemen, and this one is for you, Basil. Basil, you can answer first, and then Dwight can respond. And in this second one, Dwight
the logo is blocking some of the question. The logo.
Yeah, but I will ask it.
Okay.
You are the captain of your cricket team, and you are defending a small total in a high-pressure final. Your most experienced bowler is having an off day, while the opposition is gaining momentum. What do you do as a captain? Do you stick with the experienced bowler, trusting he will bounce back? Rotate in a younger bowler, a younger, less experienced bowler who has been bowling well lately? Call a team order and realign strategy based on team input? Change field settings to compensate for the bowler weakness instead of removing him? So, Basil, go ahead first.
I would do B.
Yes, but explain to us why you'll do B.
I would do B, not to say I wouldn't bring my experienced bowler back. I would say the same. I said, look, you're a little off today. I'm gonna bring in this bowler here. He's been doing well lately, and let him take over for the period of time. And I want you to reflect on your performance thus far, so that when I bring you back on, you will have a better approach, because I trust you. You have been our top bowler. I trust you to come back when I call you back to bowl in this game to get the job done.
Before I hear your reaction, Dwight, Sherwin is saying bowl the best bowler, the bowler who's bowling best that day. Once is well, that's a very fair comment. That's what I would do to Sherwin. I can't believe that you actually say something, Sherwin, that I actually agree with. But what you have to say. Why?
I don't have to go any further. I agree with Basil.
You agree with Basil? Why?
Yeah, it has to be. No, because if a bowler is having an off day, you want to be proactive as a captain. You don't want to be reactive. You don't want to just continue trusting that a bad situation will change. You want to try to take control of the situation, and you want to make an input, whether right or wrong, because in every situation, a captain is not necessarily right. So he will make a decision, bring in a young guy, and he get knocked, you lose the game kind of thing, but at least you're trying to take control of the situation, and there was logic behind what you're doing. Totally agree with Basil.
Right. So the captain make a decision, and I agree, proactive. But look at C. Wouldn't it getting more opinion before you make your decision?
Me personally, well, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that can be an option, but I think in this situation, it doesn't need to call for that, because it's simply a case of where one individual is not getting the job done right now, and we're going to try somebody else who has been doing well lately. So it wouldn't call for that. Here is where we will have a situation like this. If our bowlers are not getting the job done, we're getting shellacked, and we got to call a huddle and say, gentlemen, what is going on here? Something like that. But this is a one person, so I don't think at that time would be a need for C.
Okay, yes. Okay, gentlemen, this is now for you, Basil.
You mean Dwight? This is
Dwight, sorry. Your team needs 12 runs to win from the final over with 2 wickets remaining. You are on strike and have scored 70 not out. What would be your approach? Try to finish the game quickly in the first 2 balls. Look to rotate the strike and trust the tailenders. Take a single and guide the tailenders through. Assess the bowler's weakness and adapt for the first ball.
With this one, I'm leaning to D. I think I'll take D. I think with 12 runs, only 2 wickets remaining, I think this thing of simply trusting the tail end, that definitely we're not into that. You have to take leadership. You have to take charge in that sort of situation. So B and C are out. I think A is just being overly aggressive. So I would, that's a time where you need to look at the bowler closely, look at his weaknesses, look how you're going to take advantage of it. And if things are not working out as you want to also have the ability to adjust and adapt as the over continues. So I'll be leaning towards D.
Okay, so Imperator also agree with you that he will lean towards D. A said try and finish the game quickly in the first 2 balls. That's very interesting. But Basil, let's hear your reaction to this.
I agree, Chato. I go with D because remember you got 2 wickets standing, and in your haste to finish the game in 2 balls, you could have 1 wicket standing, which would mean it would be the 2, because now you have to assess the whole circumstance of how you're gonna approach what you're doing, and I think D fits that most the best option in my view.
So Imperator agree with you, but Sherwin Izal say don't rotate the strike.
well, I'll give you an exact case. You remember in the World Cup in 1996 when Walsh, Richie took a single and let Walsh face?
I knew you were going to go to that story. I knew you were going to go to that game.
So we have actual data of that scenario and what happened, right?
Yeah, but so Basil, here is Athena now saying that Athena, a legend of this community.
Yes, the legendary Athena.
Athena. What if Shannon Gabriel is one of those?
No way you're trusting Shannon Gabriel. You will have to make the decision at the start of the over and discuss it with him. I gotta score these 12 runs, right? I got to score these 12 runs. You here when it's a tight 2, you better make sure you on the giddy up to get back to your area. But I will take the responsibility to score these 12 runs in the 6 balls.
So Michael Douglas is saying that he will have to get a boundary off the first 2 balls, not necessarily. He's not trying to finish it in the first 2 balls, but one of those 2 balls has to go for.
Okay. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and that comes into D, where you assess the bowler's weakness, so you know where are the areas you can score on this bowler, and yes, you would the thing you would be looking to do is to try to score a boundary off the first ball, because now you you're gonna put the pressure more on the bowler, because now it's come down to an easy equation: 8 runs in 5 balls, right? Yeah. Now you could win the game now without scoring a boundary again, right? You see? So scoring a boundary in the first ball is something that you would be looking to do.
So what if Shanko is saying if it is Gibbs, if it's someone like Gibbs or Croft, he's not taking the single, but if it is Garner or Roberts, he will take it. You know, very interested.
Yeah.
I love the feedback. Keep the feedback coming.
And he's correct, because I don't know if a lot of people, depending on their age, know one of the greatest partnerships in limited overs cricket by a West Indian pair was between Andy Roberts, the last pair, and Derek Murray, right?
Okay. Thank you. Jomel said, who survives at the crease the longest is responsible for making the decision. Who survives at the crease the longest is responsible for making the decision.
Yeah,
but remember that Jomel Small, these questions that I'm going through is that I'm trying to capture the essence of what a psychometric test is. Mm-hmm. So when West Indies is interviewing those 6 players as captain, probably, I'm not saying these are the questions that they ask, but the questions that they ask, I assume that it will be along the lines of these questions. I don't know if they will give them an option. They probably ask them to answer it open-endedly. So the next
Carlton,
one is
Carlton, before we get to 3, because these questions are brilliant. These questions we could be asking on the 15s when we start to get them to learn to be tactical. We're developing their tactical skills. This is these things. That's why I said this should be part and parcel of the development of our players.
That's why we are number one, Basil. Thank you very much. After a critical loss, remember this one is yours, Basil. After a critical loss, fans and media are blaming your leadership. How do you respond? A, defend your decisions and move on. B, take responsibility and analyze your mistakes. Avoid the media and focus on training. Ask management to release a joint statement.
I would say B. There's no need for me to defend my decisions to anybody. I would take whatever responsibility. We lost as a team, and how we have to get better. We have to do X, Y, Z things better. If you characterize it as mistakes, we analyze what we didn't do as well that cost us to not win the game, right? I'm not defending my decisions to nobody because, as Chateau said perfectly earlier, choices are never right or wrong. Because a simple thing like you see the ball.
I disagree with you, Basil.
Huh?
I disagree with you.
Okay.
About choices, because if the choice turned out to be that I win the match, it was right.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was just about to say. I was giving an example. The ball comes in your area, your zone, that you could 9 times out of 10 and you connect is 6 runs. But on this one time, instead of hitting the middle of the bat, it hit the inside edge and you got caught at long on. Were you wrong in trying to go for the shot? No. But at that point, the choice did not come out as you hoped it would come out. It's not a right or wrong, right? And my whole thing to Carlton and Chateau is whenever you make a choice, you better have logic behind it. That's where I get a problem. I always tell players when I coach, there are times you guys can do things I may disagree with. But when you come in and I ask you why you did X, Y, Z, and if you can give me a good cricket logical explanation, I can say fine.
Thank you,
Basil. Next time it could work out.
Dwight, before I come to you, Jomel Small is agreeing with Basil for B, while Athena don't agree with any of those response. Athena believe that you should just simply blame the umpire. Let's get to you.
That's why Athena is the legendary Athena. That's brilliant. That is brilliant.
Yeah, let's hear from you.
I don't know how is it that you didn't have as one of the answers. Say it's in the past and move on. It's not one of the go-to share hope type responses. That was in the past. Let's move on. But let's talk about my century that was also in the past.
Yes. Yeah. So Sancho is saying A and B, C and D is A and B, C and D is shrinking responsibility. Then you should not have been skipper in the first place. But let's hear your response, Dwight. I really enjoyed the response coming from the audience.
Yes.
Well, all right. I don't have a problem with a captain defending his decision, but I just didn't like the last part of that answer and move on, which is sort of like dismissive in terms of the way that it sounds. And it sounds like a player as well that's not open to growth and evolution. I'm more along the lines of B, where you take responsibility and you analyze your mistakes. And in that analysis, you can actually come up with a situation where you said, you believe in retrospect you made the wrong decision. All right. Now, whether or not you're gonna accept that, you're gonna admit that in a publicly or whatever the situation is, and be roasted by the West Indian public, comes down to prudence. But I think in terms of what the approach should be, I think you have to take responsibility. I think you have to explain yourself and present yourself. But I also think that you have to be very, very open in analyzing your mistakes and seeing whether or not there are other approaches to go forward in the future. So I'm more in line of B, rather than A because of the dismissive sound to the end of it when they say, and move on.
Thank you very much. So this one is for you, Dwight. So this is the final of the 4 questions, and I think I cover all aspects of what Psychometric is saying. 2 senior players on your team are having a dispute that is affecting team performance. What do? Is this familiar? Let the coach handle it, mediate privately with both players, call a team meeting to address the issue openly, ignore it unless it escalates. I think these are 4 brilliant options I came up with. Go ahead.
D cannot be an option. You already said in the thing that the dispute is already affecting team performance. So to ignore it unless it escalates, has already escalated. So let's scratch D from that. Let the coach handle it. You're the captain of the team. This is the very reason you were selected as the captain of the team. You are closer to the team than even the coach. All right. So you're now down to B and C. Do you discuss this in a team setting or do you discuss this privately? My experience, well, let me not say my experience. My thought on the matter is that this should be discussed privately with the players first instead of being discussed in a team setting. In a team setting, people get defensive. People are closed off. Nobody wants to look like they're an idiot. So to put this in a team setting, I don't think that's the way to go about doing it. I think this is something that you should be discussing with players privately first.
Jamo Small believe it is C, Basil. Let's hear your reaction.
Yeah, for me it's B because I've had this situation as a coach before. And one of the things I would say, as Chato correctly said, every individual responds to criticism or anything of the sort differently. So you as a coach or captain, you have to know how to communicate with each individual so you get the best out of them. I remember I had a player. He was a guy, I couldn't criticize him openly because he would go into a shell and I wouldn't get the best out of him. So I dealt with him one-on-one in a way to encourage him. I encouraged him, but I pointed out what he could do better and so on. Whereas I had another player, I could scream and curse him and that would motivate him to do better. So that's why I would mediate this privately with the players. And as Chato said, and then after speaking with them and clearing this situation, then bring it to the team, because at the end of the day, this is affecting the entire team. So then the discussion has to come within the context of the entire team.
Basil, Sherwin, and you would have known a lot about Clive Lloyd more than most of us. Sherwin think that Clive Lloyd would have just disciplined both players and that David Murray was one such player that was disciplined by Clive.
I don't think Sherwin knows Clive Lloyd that well to say that, because one of the things I say this, I've known Clive Lloyd since I known myself, right? That's how long I know him, right? And I've seen him up close in many situations. And one of the most brilliant things about what I called him as I was growing up, Uncle Clive, is that this guy could be in any situation with the highfalutins, with the guy on the street, and he knew how to maneuver and communicate with all kinds of individuals. So I don't think he would just simply do it like, I'll give you an example what something he did one time. I heard the story.
Yes.
Quickly. He told, the players were told they were in curfew, they're in Australia. And a certain fast bowler always liked to roam, looking for the PUSSY. And the skipper, the big skipper, found out about it. So when they went out, Westneys was bowling. He threw the ball to him and started to play. And he had to bowl almost close to lunch, a whole session. I bet you he never went back out looking for what I just described earlier, because he didn't want to. The big skipper got his message across.
Yes, Basil, I have done a similar situation like that. I used to coach a netball team at a particular high school.
Mm-hmm.
And one morning, a young lady came to me and said, "Sir, you know, my mother never did home last night and I never sleep because X just couldn't let me sleep the other night because X was in the room." You know that I let that girl play whole day in the sun at the next day. You know, so I do understand that. I do understand those situations.
But Carlton,
questions though that I want to ask Cricket West Indies, and Dwight Chatou can respond to this. Did Darren Sammy undergo a psychometric interview before he was selected head coach?
whoa.
Second question. Did Rovman Powell fail a psychometric analysis while he was removed as captain of the West Indies T20 team? What are the scores on Sheo psychometric evaluation? What are the scores on Darren Sammy psychometric evaluation on the series that the West Indies have played so far? And the fifth question, are we able to see one of those instruments or a copy of the instrument that Cricket West Indies use to perform the psychometric evaluation? Over to you, gentlemen.
Man, I'm trying to
Carlton,
go ahead.
Carlton, you had me laughing with your straight face with those questions, because Carlton, I am so happy you raised them, because I raised the same questions with this new psychometrics. Because Mr. Director of Cricket was in place when Powell was captain, Sammy came in as coach, and Shea Hope became the white ball captain. So those are pertinent questions CWI needs to answer.
Thank you very much. Dwight, your reaction?
Well, the question I think answered or responded perfectly to respond perfectly to what I had said earlier. I don't have a problem with you doing a psychometric test. All right. And if you never did it in the past and you have now decided that this is the way forward, I embrace it. I mean, as leaders, you have to evolve. All right. So I'm not even going to knock them too hard if Darren Sammy never did it and if Rovman Powell never did it. We all know that Shea Hope did it because we heard the report from Shea Hope's psychometric test about how he's calm under pressure and how we heard all that. But let me be serious. It goes right back to what I'm saying. And it goes right back to the questions that you asked us. You asked us 4 questions, and people would say that we answered them perfectly well. I will not make the West Indies as captain. Basil is not the best candidate to be the next West Indies captain, and neither are you, Carlton, because we can't put runs on the tin. So it goes back to what I'm saying. All this thing about psychometric testing and thing, the weight that we should give to this is not significant. People can a psychometric test. People can do well in this sort of interview setting. And when we put them out on the field, if they're not making runs, we're going to drop them. Simple. The game is an elite sport. You need to be able to consistently perform on the field. That's my opinion on this thing.
Thank you.
I agree to
Basil,
100%, Chato.
so Basil, here we are, is that it appears that we are putting too much emphasis on the psychometric, the psychological analysis of our players before we make them captain. Is this a way, though, that the sport is evolving in it? And although Dwight made the point that you don't really need to put a lot of emphasis on it, but there is a place in the game for this psychometric analysis, Basil.
I think so, because you want to be able to be as thorough, because remember, we're dealing with a human being, a whole human being. So it's not simply their skill, like say a batter, his or her skill to be able to hit a cricket ball and score runs, but what makes up this person, how they think, how they would go about it, because you will find, what you probably will find is that the better performers, their decision making is not the best. That's why they're not good performers. So this will help you in your evaluating how good a decision maker this person is. And you could then, that's why I said this is good to be using all the way down the chain. So then you could implement training for that person or persons as they develop to enhance that those choices, their choice making to be better. So
Thank you.
Be better players overall.
So do
Carlton, if I may.
You can do it, but you can say what you're going to say, but I just want to say this to you too, so you just put both of them together. Athena is saying that if you smell alcohol on the person's breath, do you continue the psychometric evaluation?
Stop it, Master. Stop it, Carlton. Stop it.
Athena,
but listen.
Are we going laughing today, man? Thank you, Athena.
No, listen. I don't want to sound like we're knocking this thing. I think this can be a difference maker, but where you have clear choices. So I think in a team where you have well-established players, where you have several people who you think are good for the role, then you can get down to your psychometric test to start to split here and start to look and see what you have. But I don't think I need any psychometric testing to consider Justin Greaves. He's just not on the list. He's just not on the list. No amount of psychometric testing should be getting with Justin Greaves into a West Indies team unless he can keep his place in the team.
I agree with you, Chato. And let me just tell you guys this thing. In elite sport today, there's something we call cognitive training. That's part of elite sport. I do it with my clients in the gym. But
it goes back to, it's the same psychological, mental skills.
Yes. So there's a specific thing we call brain endurance training, because what we try to do is enhance the endurance of the brain, because as we know, when you get tired, you tend to make worse choices. So if you enhance that person's or the player's brain endurance, even in the times where they're fatigued, they're able to think clearly and be focused. So there's a big role today, and it's actually being done.
Thank you. Lou Prudent, I checked the audio and it's going through, so maybe you need to test your settings.
Yes.
Linden Ballers, we only have 4 options, so what maybe you should be doing instead of asking me that question is making a case for Imlach. So there are times when we just need to shift our approach and make it a more intelligent one. So instead of trying to blame others, you think that Imlach should be there, make a case for him. I only have 4 options, and I put 4 options there. Mm-hmm. Now, gentlemen, for many years, we have heard that Cricket West Indies is in debt. We heard that Cricket West Indies do not have any money. We heard us borrowing money from England and all those stories. However, I am happy to inform you this morning that Cricket West Indies is now debt-free and now have a lot of money in the bank. And maybe, just maybe, if we never had this money, we would not be hiring psychological consultants from across the Atlantic. However, we have Dwight Chateau, who is now going to take us into details of how much money Cricket West Indies have, where that money comes from, and how we expect Cricket West Indies to spend this money. Dwight Chateau, over to you, sir.
Okay. I don't know if people have followed the last 3 annual reports from the West Indies Cricket Board, but what we have seen for the last 3 financial years, and the financial year ends in September of each year, so this is going back to September 2024, is that we have seen that they have been able to make a profit for the last 3 years. I think in 2022 they made a profit of around 21 million. Last year they made a profit of almost 26 million. Some of that was because of some one-off one-off impairments. And this year, coming out of the World Cup, they've made a profit of $23 million. Now, what does that mean in terms of the bottom line situation? One, they have moved from having a debt of around $5 million to having zero debt. So they do not owe any bank any loans. Two, they have moved in terms of cash in the bank, cash that they have sitting down in the bank, from having cash reserves of around $1.8 million in 2022 to now having $17.5 million sitting in the bank right there for them. So what was the main contributor to the revenue this year? The World Cup. So this year they generated $88 million worth of revenue. 39 million of that came from the World Cup, and when the expenses were deducted, that's what we came up with a profit of $23 million. My problem, though, to be honest, is that when we look on the revenue side from 2022 with revenue of around $80 million, last year 62 million, this year 88 million, I'm not seeing the sort of uptick that I expected in revenue. Definitely coming off for World Cup here, I thought that we would have been able to gone closer to 100 millions, maybe even past $100 million. That's one of the concerns. The second concern is for the next, I think, year or two, we don't have big teams coming here in the Caribbean. So there's a strong possibility that a lot of this money will have to tie them over that sort of lean period. So the question is, what do they do with this money? Do they sit on it and tide it over for the next couple of years where things will be a bit lean? Or will we strategically use this money to invest in our cricket somehow? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. And so, Basil, you heard what Dwight said. I have some questions for Dwight, especially. I was very interested when he said that although we have this 17 million United States dollars, is that it was not what was expected. It was far below par. And if we were a company, well, West Indies is a company, but a company in the business of making money, they would have said that they have come out at a loss because they did not make what their budget said that they would have made. They underperformed. So basically, that's why Dwight is saying that despite this amount of money, Cricket West Indies has underperformed. Your reaction?
No. I'm not saying that they underperform. I'm just looking at the top line, the revenue. And I thought for World Cup year, I really expected us to make more than $88 million in terms of revenue, considering that a good bit of that.
That's what I'm saying, Dwight.
But those are my personal impressions. I don't think in terms of internally how they had set things up that they believe that they made a loss or they underperformed necessarily. So those are just my personal impressions.
You expect them to make more. So in your
opinion, I expected it to be more.
So in your opinion, they underperform?
In my opinion, I expected at least the revenue to be higher, the profit to be higher in a World Cup year, in a T20 World Cup year.
Basil, your thoughts?
I would want to say this firstly. The last CEO, Johnny Greaves, stated that West Indies had budgeted for all their programs, whether it's regional tournament, etc., for the next 2 years, and this is before World Cup money came in, right? They had money to cover all the costs of their programs for the next 2 years, which would mean the years when the Englands and the Indias would not be coming to the West Indies on tours. So this money from the World Cup is actually a bonus because West Indies board had already covered everything. So now the question will be, maybe that's why they got money to pay for a consultant from Manchester United fame to participate in this process, because you know that person is not coming cheap. But the key is going to be, as Chateau correctly said, where and how do they strategically invest this money to make West Indies cricket teams and West Indies cricketers move up the ladder?
Okay, thank you very much, Basil. So you would have heard me say it a number of times. The players, they are the product. That's what we, to use a manufacturing word, that's what we produce. That's what we sell. The performance on the field is the product. Cricket West Indies is a sport organization. So what they need to do is to produce quality product, quality players. So on the cricket field, we will produce a quality product that televisions want to buy, that persons want to go and watch. And that's where the money comes in. More eyes on the players, the more West Indies can sell their product for. So 3 options I have here for you, gentlemen. Should all of this money goes toward investing in the product to produce a higher quality product? And when I say all of it, you know what I mean, because you're always going to need to save for the rainy day. You always need to build resilience. Or should we be taking a portion of this money and investing in stocks and bonds? Or should West Indies now list on the stock market? What are your views, starting with you, Dwight Shettle?
Well, I've never considered the whole issue in terms of the stock market. That's actually a pretty interesting idea. No, it's actually a very interesting idea. I've never thought about it. Sitting down, listing on the stock exchange and looking to see if you can have additional revenue coming in when they want it, and you'd also have greater buying. To do that, though, they'll need to make a lot of adjustment to their corporate governance structure. All right, so that's one thing. I personally think that some of this money should be taken to strategically invest in the future of our cricket. Clearly, we're not going to be ridiculous and not going to realize that we need some of this money to tide us over in the linear to come. But I am going to even go as far as to make a suggestion. I think that $3 million should be invested in club cricket across the region. I think that we should be looking to give each territory, that's each of the 6 territories, $500,000 to invest in something that looks close to a proper club cricketing system. All right. And I would push them to see how much they can extend that. I think I'd want to see that to be a commitment going forward. I think that we should at least commence the work this year and make that investment in terms of club cricket. We know of clubs which are suffering. We know that the backbone of cricket in the Caribbean is club cricket. And I think that's where I'd make the strategic investment.
I would go lower than club cricket too, Basil, and I know you have a lot to say on this. And persons have to understand that when we speak, we take everything into consideration. We know that there must be accountability and so on. If I ask you to get a bottle of water for me out of the fridge, I don't have to tell you to say, stand up, walk to the fridge, open the fridge door, look in it, you will see the bottle of water. So when we speak like this, when do I talk about club cricket? All of the underlying structure that has to be put in place for them to get the money. We take those for granted that before they can get the money, these things will be in place. But Basil, I will also go lower than the club cricket in, say, especially in Jamaica, I'd say go to school cricket. You have seen the crowd that have been turning out at the school cricket matches. You have seen the numbers on YouTube that we have been streaming the matches. Yesterday, over 3,000 persons watched the T20 match between Clarendon College and St. Jago. You know, so these things are very interesting. So I'll go to school cricket also too, Basil, but I know that club cricket is your passion. Please look at both for me.
Yeah, I think both are symbiotic. You play school cricket, and then when you decide if you think this cricket thing is something you want to do more, that's when you go and join a club to play in higher level competition. So those two have to be there. We have to have our schools, our youngsters from those age groups being able to be in high performing systems, and that's how we have to help the schools to try to develop those kinds of systems in the schools, so the youngsters, as they coming through school, and ready to play club cricket. They'll be more equipped, and same things we have to do at the club level also. So what Chato is saying, I agree with 100%. There's never been a focus by a territorial board or a West Indies board in lifting our professionalizing. And when I mean professionalizing, I don't mean simply paying people money to play cricket at club level, but in the way the structure is managed and works, the structure is set up. We have never done that, and that's been the problem. That is the foundation, as Chato correctly said, the backbone of West Indies cricket, the foundation. And if the foundation is weak, we're always going to see what's going to happen at the top. So yes.
Thank you very much, Basil. Thank you, Athena. Please remember to slash on the like button. Karen Fritz, and the last time we checked, that Silva was leading in the poll. Yes, that Silva is ahead in the poll at this moment. And Karen Fritz, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your kind compliments. And Karen Fritz is saying that Silva is man. Athena is saying that Cricket West Indies need to change from a private organization to public and to sell shares. What are your thoughts? Well, you said that you found it interesting, but how you respond to Athena?
No, I mean, somebody will hear that and they'll laugh it out of the park, and I don't think it's a laughable idea at all. I think that is a very, very valid idea. That's why the moment you said it, I was struck by it. I think it's a good idea. I mean, one of the things that you'd get is that you'd get buying from the Caribbean into the West Indies cricket team. At least you'd get greater buying from.
And you made a very good point that for that to happen, there'll have to be a lot of governance change and a lot of reporting and auditing. And so it will automatically, for us to reach that, just like the illustration I gave about getting the drinks, there are so many things you have to do right before you are able to be listed on somewhere like the Jamaica Stock Exchange. I'm just using the Jamaica Stock Exchange as an example. Although the last time I used the PFSA as an example, the person tried to say that I said only while it was an example. Go ahead, Basil.
Okay.
I would say to Chato that the investing of West Indies board money has been done in the past, and it was a disaster.
Oh, that's the idea about putting it in stocks and bonds.
Yes,
I didn't get into that. I didn't get into that, but
that actually happened in the 90s, and it was a disaster.
But let me continue from something that Basil said. Because I really think that this is sustainable. Apart from the World Cup, there's another thing that we haven't mentioned yet. Remember that there's this lottery that is being operated. I think the name of the group is Cage. And they had told the West Indies board that they should be getting around 10 million US dollars per year in revenue from that. And I'm looking at that as well. But I really think right now, with the cash reserves that we have and stuff, that the West Indies Cricket Board should make that sort of jump and start to put money into club cricket. Now, the question that you asked and what you all commented on is, what about schools cricket? And that's a very, very valid question. Now, I have a different answer for that. I really believe that the West Indies Cricket Board should try to lobby the governments of the region to up the stake that they have in school cricket right now. Yeah. All right?
I agree with Chato. Even the club cricket, the government should partner, and the West Indies board could bring the blueprint as to how they want the structure of the club cricket, and the government can help to facilitate funding these clubs, because clubs are struggling mightily across the region.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. Do you know the name Uday Shankar? Uday Shankar is a vice chairman of GeoStar. Do you know GeoStar? You ever heard of GeoStar, gentlemen?
Is that one of the a TV network out of India?
Yes, it's the biggest TV network in India. The Hotstar and Disney Star merge to form GeoStar. And they are the one that are buying up all the TV rights associated with India. So wherever India plays, they have the rights. They have all the rights. They pump over $6 billion US dollars in the IPL just 2 years ago. I think that's a 5-year contract. So that is over $1 billion per year. I often heard a number of us say that we need to get more money from the ICC. The sharing model of the reserve of the ICC surplus is unfair. But gentlemen, I have some statement from Uday Shankar. Please.
I read that.
Contrary to general perception, I find the BCCI to be far more a live body to engage with its stakeholders compared to the ICC, which in my view is the East Indian Company of cricket. It's just here to take the wealth of this country. Dwight, how do you respond to that, Dwight? Or do you let me complete the entire statement before I ask you to reply, Dwight? After taking this money, the ICC decides that India must play a country that no Indian is interested in watching.
Wow.
India play because they want to develop cricket globally. So it is their agenda and my money. Best service that someone like the new chairman of the ICC, Jay Shaw, can do is to ensure that he is the last chairman. And this is the man who is spending most of the money in cricket, Dwight.
Wow, this is an amazing statement. Of course, you know that the reference of the East Indian Cricket Company or whatever company, he's making reference to the back in the day when there was I believe the Dutch East Indian Company and the British East Indian Company.
That was the British.
Yeah, I think there are two of them. And they basically pillaged India. Yeah. That was colonialism at its best. They basically came in, they took land, they took resources, they set up their own army, they went through a system of divide and conquer, and they were, for the most part, the guys that basically conquered India and raped it of its resources. Mm-hmm. But so that's where he's coming from. But he's literally saying that he's not in favor of this thing of growing cricket globally, because really and truly, we're not interested in watching India play some of those teams. And his view of the future is that the ICC should be done away with, that he doesn't see a purpose for it. And that's a very, very short-sighted view. It's very isolationist, in my opinion. It's very protectionist. It has this sense that, okay, we're good by ourselves. And we have seen generally that any product in the world benefits from the globalization of that product. That the more cricket grows, the more India stands to benefit from that. So yeah, you're going to take your lumps that some of this money that's been taken from India is going to be used to develop cricket in Papua New Guinea and in Korea and all those areas. And you may not be interested. And part of the growth strategy as well is to have where the West Indies and England and India go and play cricket with some of these teams to grow the cricket. But at the end of the day, you will benefit at the end. Cricket benefits at the end. So I think that this is a very short-sighted view of the future. And if this is how this guy thinks, the chances of us seeing an adjustment in the split for cricket has gone right down to almost zero.
Basil, before I come to you, because I know you have your comment, but you see, Shankar highlighted that a significant portion of cricketing talent and revenue originates from India. Yet the benefits are distributed globally. He also expressed concern about initiatives like including cricket in the Olympics. Basil, over to you. And one of the things before you speak, Basil, this is no ordinary person. This is no other person I'm speaking. So there on the screen you say, so it's the ICC agenda and my money. It's no ordinary person.
Yeah, it's interesting that he used the analogy of the East India Company, right? Because he is just like the East India Company. He is what they call the word they use today, neoliberal, the global corporations that don't have no particular national interest. It's all about just making money, right? Just like what the East India Company is a precursor to what he is today. They're the same, in the same boat. They're the same thing, right? Now, I wonder what he would say about the West Indies, little West Indies, when our cricketers were overwhelmingly the best, that everybody wanted to see our cricketers play. And what did we get from it? We don't have nothing to show from the world at large, their contribution to what West Indies cricket did for the game of world cricket, right? We West Indians made watching cricket an exciting thing to do. We brought entertainment. We took cricket from the dreary, how the English and so played, and made it an entertainment thing. And yet this guy comes in today because India's on top, they got the money and so on, that he talks this way. And yes, you're correct. When you hear such kind of talks, you could see why we're not going to have the equity of distribution of the money, so the sport, people can compete. I always go back to the United States where I live with the leagues. All the leagues, the TV revenue, the TV deals and whatever, the league signs with all the different networks are split equally amongst all the teams. Then all the teams have the right to have their singlet TV deals with whether it's regional networks, etc. So in the case of India, India could make their deals with his company, for example, and make their big money. But when it comes to the global sport, everybody should be getting the same money, because India cannot play by themselves.
Yes. Yeah, but I got that Dwight, and I got that, Basil. But without the money coming in from India, cricketers will be paid far less than what they're being paid today.
Well. Let's put it to the test, because here's my question. Dwight said something earlier. Many Indian companies want to have their brand be exposed globally outside of India, right? Cricket allows them to do so, right? We see US companies investing in the IPL and other cricketing entities around the world because they want to expose their brand, because people are watching. So I have often said, let's put this to the test. I want to see if all these Indian companies gonna stop sponsoring cricket, if the world comes together and say, look, we are not going to continue with this model. It's unattainable. It is not tenable. It's untenable.
Dwight, I really understand where you, the Shankar, is, Dwight. I really do. But what's your reaction to what Basil just said?
One, I agree with Basil. I think it's a very short-sighted view. You having cricket in the World Cup, you having cricket in the Olympics, for example, is opening the sport to a whole set of new eyes right there. That benefit will redound to you who are still sponsoring cricket events. That benefit, cricket becoming a bigger sport must benefit you. But worse than that, cricket entering a territory like the United States, that despite the fact that its chances are a quarter of the population of India.
Never call any country's name enough.
No. He is saying this whole idea of globalizing cricket, he's not into that stuff. That's basically what he's saying. Maybe what he meant to say is that he's not interested in it going to Papua New Guinea or Indonesia, but he's very much interested in it going to the United States. maybe he's not saying that. But cricket being in the cricket being in the Olympics, and the next Olympics I think is in Los Angeles in the United States. That's a benefit to cricket. That's a benefit to cricket ending up in a market as big as the United States. That's a situation that should redound to a profitable situation for him in being able to benefit from that. But let me push back to what Basil said, because people forget this. Because Basil gave us a history lesson about the sacrifices that the West Indies cricket team made for the globalization of the sport as well. Around the year 2000 or something like that, the financial situation about how boards were paid were much different to what we have today. What was done is that the West Indies Cricket Board would be able to sit down at the table and negotiate how much money they would get for a tour. And back then, the most profitable tour was going to England to go on tour and play cricket. But they were able, having a reasonably strong team, when they're touring Australia or touring England, to say, yo, this is what we would like. We have a high quality team. We can fill your stadium. We can fill your stadium. This is what we want. And they had that right. And then a bunch of guys came in, and the West Indies was voted down. I think they were the only ones who opposed the view that from going forward, they will only be paid a fixed fee to go on tours. But not only that, they would also be required to go and tour several other areas that they weren't touring before. Because back then the West Indies didn't go, the tour system wasn't split equally among all the test playing nations, and they were forced to do that. So they were forced to take a financial hit. They were forced to go out and play more evenly and give lower tier teams games when we'd say, oh, we didn't have an interest. And we accepted that for the growth of the sport. I find it absolutely weird that years from now, right now, today, that the top team in the country is unwilling to do that. And you have people here talking and saying, no, they're not interested in that. They're just interested in making their own profits. I don't agree with it at all, Carter.
Yeah, just imagine.
I want to add on.
I'm not saying that I agree with his position. I'm just saying that I understand this position.
Yeah.
Because when you look at what Jamaica is to the Carifta, if Jamaica don't turn up at Carifta every year, after a few years, there'll be no more Carifta. So I understand, we in Jamaica understand where the big boys have to support the community around us to help them to develop.
Yeah.
Many persons will not agree with me on this, or they would probably the first time they are thinking about it. But this all comes about because of West Indies losing that 1983 World Cup final. The other thing that Uday Shankar, no, you guys laugh, but look at it.
No. You're absolutely telling the truth.
I'm not laughing at what you said. I'm just laughing at how you said it.
Yeah, before the 1983 World Cup final, cricket was a big sport in India. But sports like hockey was the big deal in India. It is after that 1983 victory that India now becomes a powerful nation in cricket, and now is the most powerful. The other thing that Uday Shankar needs to realize, that the money that he pays to India, the ICC and the BCCI, is not really his money. Because if there were not eyes on the cricket, he would not be able to get that money from sponsors.
Correct.
To pay it over to the BCCI and the ICC.
Correct.
And those eyes are not only from India.
That's right.
I understand this position,
but
I'm just saying I differ. I he needs to understand these things. Basil, you wanted to come in before
I wanted to say something to what Chateau said to add on to that. The system in place when you had the bilateral tours, you as a touring team could negotiate revenue for you going there to tour. When the Future Tours program came into play, all of that went out the window. All the revenues will be collected by the host nation. All they only in they will incur the costs of when you get to the country. They incur all the costs, your hotel, etc. Only cost you pay is flying your players to the destination, right? So that if you have a team that you have developed that is a really exciting team, entertaining team, good team, you are not able to benefit when your team goes on the road. And that system has to be changed. The second thing, cricket, international cricket started to be played in the region during the hurricane season. We never played cricket in the hurricane season historically here in the Caribbean because of obviously the weather can cause a lot of games, as we see it often happens when we're playing games in July and June and August, etc. How the weather can cause havoc with games being able to be played. And all of that came because they said we must host at least 2 test series every season that we had. So that meant we had to extend it into what would be the hurricane season. So again, now the West Indies get put in the back foot. And the other thing that did to us too is that our players who might have had a chance to ply a trade in England to continue to develop their games, they were unable to do so because our season extending clashes with the English summer season, right? Our season used to end in April, and sometimes our season in April, we rarely went into May playing test cricket. So guys, either with guys who were playing county cricket at the time, they may miss their first week of county because if they got international duty, and then they head there. Or if they didn't have an internet, the series ended, they often would miss the last rung of Shell Shield because they had to get to England. Because remember, Shell Shield was paying you a little $250 US, if that much per game, right? And then I want to now come back to the analogy why you correctly said it wouldn't work. Look, the New York Yankees for in baseball, the biggest team, biggest market is New York. They could pay the players the most money because there's no salary cap in baseball. There was a team called Kansas City. There's a team called Kansas City Royals. The joke used to be the Kansas City Royals was the New York Yankees farm team, because when Kansas City produced good players and they performed their first contract, Kansas City Royals did not have the revenue because Kansas City is a small town in Missouri, in Kansas, sorry. They did not have the revenue to keep their good players. The Yankees could pay them top dollar. So you often had a lot of good players from Kansas City coming to play for the Yankees. But when Major League Baseball decided, look, our TV money, we're going to split it evenly, the small market teams were able now to keep their good players. So there was more equitable competition. Same thing happened in basketball. So you have a team like San Antonio Spurs winning NBA titles. The old model, there is no way San Antonio Spurs could have won an NBA title.
Thank you very much, Basil. Thank you very much. Last week, I made a comment re the lack of quality on PE teachers in our school when it comes to the fundamental of cricket. A number of PE teachers did not really appreciate my comment. Some have even been aggressive. But I'm a man of peace.
female PE teachers, you said.
I'm a man of peace, and I will not go down that road to respond in a aggressive way. Because I myself, I'm a graduate of MICO, where I did physical education and science. So I'm a physical education teacher. And when I spoke from a position of knowing, not of guessing. And my point last week was mainly to collaborate what the former West Indies president, Dave Cameron, had said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also made the point that I was speaking of the basic foundation of cricket. There are some persons, when you say X, they multiply X and turn X into X to the power of 10. Because they know that they cannot defend X. So they come across and said something that you totally did not say. For example, I said that our PE teachers do not know the basic foundation of cricket. But they will put it out there that I said that PE teachers should train international cricketers, should produce international cricketers. I said no such thing. I have the proof that majority of our PE teachers do not know the basic foundation of cricket. I want to ask our PE teachers this. Is cricket a part of the physical education curriculum in our primary schools and our high schools? Why is it not being taught if it is a part of our curriculum? All I'm saying, PE teachers, and I have no war with you, majority of you do not know the basic foundation of cricket. Thank you. Gentlemen, yes, Dwight, I heard you were saying something.
I was saying that your comments were aimed at female PE teachers.
No,
I think that's where you're getting a lot of the blowback from. But wait now. No, wait. Let me say this quickly. If this statement was meant to kill the blowback and meant to address and meant to quiet this whole thing, I'm going to put a little friendly bet with Battle that you have failed. And you will and you'll even get bigger blowback after this. That's just what I'm thinking. But go ahead.
But I think if PE teachers felt offended by what Carlton
no, I have no intention to offend, and I'll be the
first.
No,
I said if they felt offended, prove you wrong that they do have a working basic of the cricket and they're able to teach young children as such the basics of playing cricket. That's all.
Yeah, because there's no doubt, Am I right, Dwight, that cricket is a part of our curriculum in our primary school and our high school?
If cricket is a part of the curriculum, I know that in terms of the sporting curriculum, in terms of the sporting curriculum,
part of the physical education curriculum in high school.
Yes, it is.
PE teachers are our children's first point of contact in a formal way in which our children will be introduced to basic cricket. But they are not being introduced. They have been introduced to track and field and football because the teachers, they are comfortable introducing these sports. And I keep on using the word introduce because I do not want anyone to think, as it was suggested, that I am saying that PE teachers should be producing elite international cricketers. I don't even think that PE teachers should be producing national cricketers.
No.
The point that I'm making is that the PE teachers, many of them, the vast majority of them, do not have the fundamental basic knowledge of cricket to introduce it, to do what? Let's say this way, to do what the curriculum says.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me say this. Let me say this before Basil jump in. I've looked at football, and if you go to any high school right now in Jamaica, the Costa Cup high school football is a big thing in Jamaica. And you look at them on the training pitch, and you look at how the team is playing. You are seeing guys talking about stuff like tiki-taki. You hear them talking about possession play. We have a team here, Clarendon College, that plays really excellent football. And you see that there's more that's going in terms of the coaching of the team, the development of the team. You just see more there. If you look at the track and field program for most of the teams here, and you can move all the way from KC, JC, and Calabar, all the way to Herbert Morrison and Monroe and Petersfield, and you see a lot more being done in terms of coaching, a lot more expertise being put into how they're developing their teams and how they compete when they go to boys champs and girls champs. If you go across and you look at cricket, you're not seeing that same transition in the quality of coaching. That's just a fact. You're not seeing the same quality of coaching in cricket that has kept on top of things that's very familiar with modern coaching methods. And even as Carlton is saying, basic fundamental coaching. We saw Sunlight cricket finals the other day. It was poor. And if the finals was poor, you wonder about the teams before the finals. You know, you're not seeing players just with the basic ability just to bat properly.
I'm not even talking about coaching your school team, you know, Dwight. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying to the PE teachers, teach what is in the curriculum. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm asking. I'm not in any fuss with anyone. I'm not in any quarrel with anyone. I do not expect you even to coach your school team. All I'm saying is to teach what is in the curriculum. I'll tell you a story quickly, gentlemen. Earlier this year, it was probably last year, a principal who knows me well called me. He's from your neck of the wood too, Dwight, in Montego Bay. He called me and said, Mr. Brown, you know, I'm going to interview some PE teachers, but I want a PE teacher that knows cricket. I want you to give me 3 questions that I can ask them and give me possible reply and how you'll grade them. You know the works, you know, setting up an instrument. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, man, you don't want that from me. Tell me what you know about cricket. And he said, I don't really know nothing about cricket, you know. I said, tell me what you know, man. And the man said, Ailey Matthews is the West Indies women team captain. I say, ask them that. I say, tell me another one. And him go around and him say, Dr. Bennett is the president of the JCM. I say, ask them that. I say, after you ask them that, give them a cricket ball and tell them to teach you to bowl. And if you understand what they're saying, that's the man you're looking for. As simple as that, you know. They don't need me. As simple as that. Ask them those 2 basic questions where you know, and then give them a cricket ball and say, teach me for bowl.
Right.
You know?
But Carlton, what are the critical parts of the curriculum that you don't believe is being taught? Because you emphasize the curriculum that you're concerned about.
No, there's basic cricket techniques like to grip a bat and to grip a ball. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the curriculum. If I'm wrong, I ask a PE teacher to come and tell me that it's not in the primary school cricket curriculum. And it is not, if cricket is not in the CXC physical education curriculum, please come and tell me. But to the best of my knowledge, and I know this curriculum, I told you I was a PE teacher, cricket is here. Now, I want to say something quickly, gentlemen. Curtin, I've been recalled that Nicholas Curtin, because we spoke about him last week, so we need to say it, that the court case is still ongoing, but he has been recalled to the Canadian cricket team. Basil, I spoke last week about Kevlin Anderson, right? Mm-hmm. And I said to the young man, please, Kevlin Anderson, I have a lot of confidence watching your bat. If someone is to ask me, I think he's the best 24-year-old batsman in the West Indies. And I'm saying to Kevlin Anderson, please, just withdraw the case against Cricket West Indies now. Please, what are your thoughts on that, Basil?
Yeah, we've been having this discussion in a chat that I'm in with a bunch of Guyanese guys, and you got one thought process that yes, they got to fight and so on because they were coerced into pleading guilty, etc., right? And I say I don't agree with that, because based on the code of conduct, the way the hearing is conducted, the match referee is pretty much, the match referee would say X. This is what you're going to be fined for the violation. We have the evidence, and if you choose to go through the hearing and you're convicted, this fine that you were given will be out of the window. You will be fined 100%, etc. That's the normal thing. So you have to make the choice. Am I going to go through with the case or not? And if you plead guilty, you can't now come and say, oh, I was coerced. They tell me X, Y, Z, and so on and so forth. I say to those who are saying on the other side that they're coerced, I ask a simple question. Do you have the minutes of the meeting with the match referee, with the players? Because if you don't have that minutes, all you're doing is speculating. And what may happen in the case that goes to court is all of those things will come into evidence, and this may become even wider ranging, that it can even affect the captain of the team. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah. Dwight, and my anger, I got what Basil is saying, and Basil made some solid points there. But my anger on it is not whether at the hearing with the match referee, he did the right thing or the wrong thing. My thing is looking at his future. My thing is looking at organizers of T20 franchise leagues and a county cricket team from England who may be looking at him and is saying, we don't like that approach from a young man. So that's why I'm saying to him, withdraw the case. Let Versama Pamal run the case if he wants to. Because if Versama Pamal wins, Anderson will automatically win. But Anderson just need to withdraw the case, Dwight.
I'm really trying to see through how you're looking at this thing. And for me personally, I don't understand why you would admit guilt for something as serious as match fixing. And you're saying the reason you did it is that you're worried that you would have gotten a bigger fine. But in doing it, what ends up happening is that people like me, I'm going to come on the cricket forum, I'm going to say that what you did was ridiculous, that you're a bonehead. I'm going to say that Guyana should not be champion, that Barbados is the rightful champion, that Guyana should have been deducted points as a result of that. And I'm going to say that it's egregious since two members of the team did it, one on the first day and one on the third day. So to begin with, I don't think that this was well thought out from their point of view. If they're saying that they felt pressure to accept a plea, not realizing that there would have been this impression by Caribbean people like myself that we don't tolerate cheaters in our sport. All right. But if he feels strongly about it, that he really was hard done, and he thinks that it has done significant reputational harm to him, it's tough for me to tell a player just to take it and move on. It's tough for me to take it, and so for me, it depends on where truth lies. If he really believes that as a young player he was pressured into agreeing that he cheated when he did no such thing, I personally am a person who think that your reputation is important, and it would be important for him to put forward a case. But for me, it's very hard for me to even agree with, to think that he was so naive to admit to not match fixing in the first place, simply because he wanted to save 50% of his match fee. That's just foolishness in my eyes.
Basil,
I would want to say
just before you comment, Basil, and you will get a chance to comment.
Mm-hmm.
I heard Dwight Chateau, and I agree with him that if you feel so hard done, but my next comment is that take it out of the Guyana High Court and take it to CAS. If you really think that you are so hard done, take it to CAS.
That is my position, Carlton. If you felt the hearing was not done fairly to you, you take it to this sports arbitration, right? Not to the court, right?
No, guys, CAS is expensive.
So therefore, what can come out of the sports arbitration is that, wait, let's say if indeed what they are alleging the players occurred with the match referee, then the sports arbitration will come back at the West Indies board and say, you guys, your match referees are not following the right process of ICC standardized code of conduct hearings. Y'all, the match referee went in another direction, and y'all need to get that straightened out. Because as I said to the guys, this process is a standardized ICC process. They're not inventing the wheel. You go and read, actually in the code of conduct, ICC code of conduct, they tell you exactly how the hearing is held when you get a level 2 charge or whatever with the match referee.
Yes. Let me tell you what I don't understand about this, Basil. You are the file a charge against you. Mm-hmm. You have an option. You're either gonna disagree with the charge and it is elevated to another level, or you're gonna accept the charge. If it's elevated, you will have to get chances of your lawyers to come in to help and argue the case for you. In any case, why accept the charge and then turn around and get your lawyer to come now and try to litigate the matter? To me, that just doesn't make any sense. It would have made sense to me if you had just simply said, I'm not agreeing with these charges and I want this elevated and I'm going to get my lawyers in once it's elevated to another level. That's why I see it.
But I heard you made the point, Dwight, that the court of arbitration for sport is expensive. But look at the jurisdiction. I don't think that the Guyana High Court can summon the match referee to Guyana.
No.
I don't think the Guyana High Court can summon Cricket West Indies to Guyana. But CAS can summon them to their headquarters, and they have to turn up, because then the ICC will probably have to suspend the West Indies Cricket Board if they don't turn up at CAS. So I really think that's where the jurisdiction is. So yes, Basil.
Yeah, because this is a question I raised to people. Yes, the West Indies Board, it seems they agreed the courts in the Caribbean have jurisdiction on governance issues, right? This is what you call plain conditions. How now a court getting involved in plain conditions? Because the code of conduct is part of the plain conditions of the tournament. How a court comes into this, that's why I agree. There must be some arbitration way, because remember, when Ram Narain was the guy for WIPO, and he took West Indies Board 11 times to the arbitrator. I don't know if it was CAS, but it was an arbitrator, and he beat them 11 times. So to me, that arbitration process is supposed to be available. And what I am thinking that the Guyana management team were ignorant of this process and did not advise their players accordingly. And this was happening. Because Anderson, if you remember, initially Anderson said, no, I didn't do this. And then when he met with the match referee, it went from 75% of his match fee to 90%. Whereas Pormal accepted it and his stayed at 75%.
So Sancho, we are not saying that it is not well thought out. What we are saying that is going about it the wrong way. And I know you have put on your Guyana hat, Sancho. I'm just saying to you, don't take it to the Guyana High Court. If you really think that you are innocent and your character is affected, take it to the court of arbitration for sport. Otherwise, my first advice to you as a 24-year-old is to just drop it and concentrate on your cricket. Because if I am the owner of a county cricket team, or I have a franchise tournament, and I'm human beings, and I think human beings have the same emotion, I am not going to look at Anderson for my franchise team. I'm not going to look at him for my county team. He just needs to drop this thing or take it to the court of arbitration for sport. Sheldon Smith.
Let me tell Sancho that I differ slightly away from you. I'm sure that they would have gotten legal advice. If Guyana has jurisdiction, I don't have a problem with it. I prefer for it to happen at the Guyana level rather than for it to happen at CAS, which I think is more expensive. My only concern is why I find it very weird that you would have accepted the charge before. But if you are 100% you didn't cheat, I think there is common sense in having your name clear, even if you worry about promoters.
I agree with that 100%. Dwight.
Me too.
It's just that we have a different way that it should be approached. But I agree with you. If he never done it, I encourage him to get his name cleared at all costs. If he never done it, so I believe with you. But I also agree with you, Dwight, that if he never done it, he cannot be so naive to have pleaded guilty in the first place. Sheldon, usually I don't say these things, Sheldon Smith, because sometimes you just keep information. But Sheldon Smith now from Trinidad, he said it doesn't matter what happened, Joshua da Silva will be the next captain for the West Indies. Josh will get the captaincy.
My question, Carlton, what you should ask him is who is the wicketkeeper?
I'm going to say something here. Usually, you keep these things, but I don't think this is something that I have to keep. I don't think it affects the price of bread. I don't think it damages anyone or anybody. So I will say this, that the information that I am getting is that Josh got the lowest score on the interview. Interesting. What we are hearing is that Warrican got the highest score.
I have heard
it's very interesting.
I have heard the same thing.
Yeah, so what is going to happen? Is that the man that
Warrican will be our next captain?
Dwight, your reaction to that? I know that is news to you, Dwight. Your reaction to that?
It is because I heard somebody say that Justin Greaves was the one who did very well in the interview. That's what I was hearing. But it goes again back to what I was saying. We all sit here, we all hear these questions and things, and we all acing these things. We are not the best person to be West Indies captain. We're not. So you put these guys in a room, you put these things in front of them, and if you put great weight on it, you end up with Warrican being the West Indies captain. Come on, man. Don't do us that.
Majority of the persons in the chat believe that I agree with Sheldon that Silva will be the next West Camp.
Of the list that's there, I'm willing to tolerate John Campbell, to be honest.
I said it already and I'll say it again. My choice would either be Kemar Roach or Alzari Joseph. I see Kemar Roach as probably an interim captain for the next 6 years to a month. Or if I'm going to go really bold, I'm going to say, Alzari, you in charge of this team. Those are my choice. Basil, I started with you up front. So let's hear your final comment, Basil. Then I go to Dwight.
Yeah, your choice of Alzari is interesting. I know some people when he walked off the field, etc., wanted to ban him for 2 years. And I said, no. But anyway, and some people have said things regarding Alzari. Interestingly, I watched Alzarri captain Leeward Islands when he was captain last year, I think he was, because he hasn't been available this season. And to my surprise, pleasant surprise, his demeanor as captain is a different demeanor that he has as a player. You know, how he screw up his face if somebody don't feel his ball, and all the various things going for him as a player. He was the complete opposite as captain. I remember Thomas, the fast bowler Thomas, bowling some nonsense, and Alzarri was encouraging. There was no screwing up of his face. And I was like, wow, this guy is a totally different temperament when he's captain. And why I bring this up is that no score and no test will detect something like that unless you watch the person actually in the fire. And that is my comments.
Thank you very much. Dwight, let's hear your final comments, sir.
My final comments is that context matters. I think where we are in our cricket is that we have a very weak team. We have several players who are struggling just to meet the lineup. And I think it would be a big mistake to select somebody as captain who is struggling to make the team 5 or 6 or 10 test matches from now. So I think the selection for captain should really be down to someone who we're fairly confident will be in the team and making runs in the team. And for me, I've said it before, I personally think that an investment should be made in Jaden Seals. Previously, I'd said that such an investment should also be made in Alzarri Joseph, but now Alzarri Joseph is having a problem making the team. But in the final analysis, I personally believe that John Campbell is the person that they'll select for this team. All right, and we'll see exactly how it pans out. When it comes on to the money and the West Indies, when it comes on to the money, there's a song that said, now that we have found love, what are we going to do with it? Now that the West Indies Cricket Board has some money, what are you going to do with it? And I think the strategic investment is in club cricket.
I agree.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dwight. Thank you. Now, I just want to say this to the Cricket West Indies. I believe in psychometric analysis. However, I do not think it should be more than 10 to 15% of what you are looking for. I'm also asking Cricket West Indies to provide the public with the instrument that you use to do this psychometric analysis.
Mm-hmm.
I would go with Alzarri Joseph as the West Indies Test captain. The money, I'd encourage West Indies, now that you are in the black, invest in products that are sellable. Whether it is player, whether you're going to go on the stock market, whatsoever it is, invest in products, because the players, as I said, are products. And if you are producing good products, everyone will want to watch those players. And by watching them, you'll have eyes on them, and TV will pay for those eyes. I said to the PE teachers in Jamaica, the story I told you about the principal, he came back to me and said, Mr. Brown, 13 persons came for the interview. Only one answered the first 2 questions, and I still cannot bowl a cricket ball. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful Sunday. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. Godspeed. Oh, we must congratulate Trinidad Titans for winning the breakout series. I forget that. Sheldon, big up yourself. Take care, everyone. One love.